how you were linking their deception regarding that to the pole shift. And I've just recently heard a theory about how the rapture would actually cause a massive, massive earthquake all around the world and therefore cause tsunamis and all this stuff to happen. And so I really see that parallel with the 2012 Mayan prophecies, which are mostly channeled stuff. I mean, if you really try to find what was going on with the 2012 stuff, you're going to run into mostly channeled stuff. What most of us believe about that is just channeled. So I wonder if that they are going to explain the pole shift as the rapture. Do you have any intel on that?
It sounds plausible to me. That's all the energy was put into. If I had a mission, that was my mission, telling the world about these why people was going to disappear. And it had to do with the 2012. I had a lot of information given to me. Like I said, it said that gasoline would go to $10 a gallon. Economic system is going to crater big time. The earth is, can't remember exactly. I'll have to send all these to Mark. I have all this information I was given, all typed up, and I'll send it to Mark, and then he can get it to you, and y'all can go over the stuff, and you can see kind of what it was. But it was about 2012, it was about the pole shift, and about all these, horrible, horrible things happening. But I never did really hear anything about this people being abducted, because they didn't call it the rapture. All these people being abducted was going to, cause this major stuff happening. I do feel and I do believe that whenever God's people are taken off the earth, I think the people like us are the only thing that's holding back the evil. And that's the other thing. That's why I think that there has to be. He has to take us off of this planet. We have to go, because the evil can't come in completely. Mm-hmm. Do you agree?
I agree completely. Yes.
We're holding it back with just our faith in Jesus Christ, and
mm-hmm.
I do believe that. I thought it was interesting, the name that was given to the people that will be taken off were called the Christed ones, like Christed. I've got all this stuff written down, and I'll get it to Mark. It's quite a few documents, because I did a lot of writing. I wrote all this stuff down, and then I sat down and then typed it up so I would have it, because I was writing my book. That's what I was doing. I was writing my life story.
One of the things... I'm sorry, Kat, I thought you were finished.
You're fine.
One of the things that we had talked about, which I thought was interesting, and is actually making a little more sense right now, was to take some of Lynn's writings from that period and try to more completely decipher some of the attempts at the deception and use that to try to expose, some of the deception as to how it would be perpetrated. I mean,
back engineer.
Yeah, it's like, right, exactly, like reverse engineering some of it and seeing if we can't do something positive with, with a lot of this deception. When Lynn was willingly turned over to being used by these entities, they were trying to feed her those portions of truth and portions of lie mixed together to accomplish something. Now, granted, we're all just small pieces in a very big puzzle, but as long as we keep that perspective and we understand that we only have the perspective of a puzzle piece, not necessarily the puzzle maker, but at the same time, there was an agenda, and, she fit a small portion of that agenda. So we talked about perhaps taking some of those writings and reverse engineering them back and trying to expose some of what would come on. As far as the rapture thing, I think I mentioned in the podcast, even going back to that Styx songs, which said, I thought that they were angels, but much to my surprise, climbed aboard their starship and headed for the skies. And I spared you all by not singing it. But, that deception, I think, has been around for a long, long time. And I'm sure that as we get closer to the time when the Lord will call us out, because I think every Christian fully understands that time will come regardless of your theological position on where it'll happen in time. Those left behind are going to be deceived, and I think that as we're seeing things uncover, like the recent Vatican letter about ET is our brother type of thing, this certainly makes so much sense that it almost makes too much sense, almost too obvious. It has me concerned a little bit, but anyway, I thought that might be that was Lynn's suggestion, and I think it's actually starting to make sense. It might be a good one.
Oh, yeah.
Let me jump in here a second.
Go.
Lynn, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Do you have, or did you come across any knowledge of who would be taken up in the ships? Like, who would be raptured?
Who would be raptured?
Yeah, would it be Christians or New Age people, or who would be like the chosen people to be taken off?
Well, it was kind of like you kind of chose to do it yourself. It was kind of like the people that I knew, some of them were going to be going. Now, like the lady that taught me everything, she was going to be the last one to go. Now there was 3 separate waves of people going to go. Okay, there was going to be the first ones would start that off, and that was going to be like in 2010, I think, something like that, around in there, maybe sooner. I think it was like 2010. And then there would be another set of people go. But then the third people that were here, they were kind of the ones that were going to help some of the ones that weren't waking up to this to wake up to it. And they were going to have to live through some really horrible stuff. And, the demons were preparing these people by giving them information about going out in the country and doing all this stuff and getting water and food and, all this kind of thing. There was a lot put into this. What I'm saying, there was a lot of energy put into this, and there has to be an agenda. There has to be an agenda for this. And I've always, ever since my eyes opened, it's like there's an agenda. There is. There has to be.
Lynn, let me explain to you what Frank's getting at there. I'm pretty sure is that there's an idea that there might also be a false rapture where New Age type people would be raptured at some point to create the perception to a lot of the Christians who have been anticipating a rapture to think that they missed it.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Because these were not. I wasn't a Christian then. I totally, I wouldn't even look at the Bible, and all these people that I knew that were going to be taken, none of those were Christians either. They were all New Age people.
Well, I think possibly. Let me just postulate an idea here. And the reason why maybe, how big was the focus on the 3 parts? Is it a big deal or small deal?
It was kind of a small deal.
Okay. Well, I wonder because I could see like the first quote-unquote event would be, rapture, let's call it, would actually be, it says in the Bible very clearly that no man knows the day or the hour, not even the Son, but only the Father. So Satan is still guessing. He's probably got a pretty good handle on the general time frame because he knows a lot more about that kind of thing than we do. But at the same time, he doesn't know when. And I really do think that the 2012 number is a number given arbitrarily to just be a number so that when it happens, they could say, oh, well, we were off a few years, but this is it. We thought 2012, maybe they're off a few years. They can maybe find a calculation, oh, well, the date started 3 years before or 4 years before here. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't have to be 2012 or start in 2010 or anything. I just think that's just a general time frame put there. Now, what I could see about a 3-stage event is the first event, which they don't have any control over because Satan is essentially going to be reacting to what God does here. So when God decides to take the first wave, be they Christians or the dead in Christ, whatever, maybe that works like that. But I tend to think it's at the same time. I'm sure we have loads of disagreements there, just theologically speaking. But not at the same time, at the same general time. Anyway, I guess what I'm saying is that after that, you said that there was going to be some people that would hang around and kind of get people to encourage people, blah, 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 to do stuff. I think that can kind of be used as a false rapture later. It's like they're going out first. But in some of the prophecies that I've heard, I say prophecies, but New Age kind of channeled information seems to be a lot of this idea of the people that aren't ready, that aren't vibrationally ready for the new age, are going to be taken away so that the rest of us can, the rest of the people can be ready for this new age. It's like taking out the bad, and I think that that's kind of a reversal of roles, saying that. So I guess anything on all that stuff?
I don't know. It's kind of it a big light come on in my head whenever you said a counterfeit rapture, because maybe that's what it is.
I'm sorry.
To break our faith down, to break the real Christian's faith down, and go, we missed it. We were wrong. I don't know.
Well, why else would they be telling you that the New Age people would be taken up? What happens when the real rapture happens and it's only the Christians and the New Agers are still here?
Right.
Now,
See, that makes sense.
Said about Christians. That Christian word was never used. This was all in the name of God is what they were trying to tell me. This was all God's work, and the people be taken off for 1,000 years. I thought that was very interesting when I think about the 1,000 years.
Right. And while doing the back engineering, while doing the quote back engineering, you got why, like she says, the word Christian isn't used, but you can see whether something's portrayed in a negative light or a positive light. And in the future, Christians are going to be portrayed as those hindering everybody from, evolving, essentially. At least, so, I mean, I could see, so it's whoever's getting portrayed negatively being raptured is what should be a light bulb in our heads, at least from my point of view. If the negative is getting raptured away to make room for the positive here on earth, then that can be read as the Christians are going to go away. They were the ones that weren't ready for this.
Right.
But if what you're saying is true, then then if the good people are going to go away, then we've got, and I think it could be that too. I think we got to be ready for a lot of stuff. It could be both. It's like working on my bus. It's like it's always more than one thing that I'm looking for. It ends up two things being happening at the same time.
There's a couple of ways to look at it. For starters, one of the things Lynn said earlier is that as far as these UFOs are concerned, they're always there. Okay. And cloaking is not a phenomenal technology. It'd be very easy to put something massive in the sky and cloak the thing to look like whatever's sitting behind it. So there's nothing to say that when the rapture actually does occur, that these things can't suddenly appear and very much, create in the minds of these New Age people that, that's the scenario. These were the people that were the hindrance. We've taken them out of the way when they've in fact had absolutely nothing to do with it. And so, that takes some of the credibility or some of the credit away from God and tried to, to point it to themselves. And then as far as the second and the third wave that she talked about, well, that could certainly happen, which would lend, again, additional credibility to those entities that would want the people remaining to believe that they were the ones responsible for the first one. Because like you said, Chris, the Bible does say we don't know the day or the hour, and it's been related to the Jewish wedding where only the father knew when it was actually going to be time. So, for the enemy to do something prior to that event would be foolish or counterproductive because it wouldn't necessarily fit in. But I could see certainly a series of some level of disappearances, corresponding with the rapture and then thereafter to continue to perpetrate an even greater deception on people that, that remains. Because how many people know the story of the Bible, have heard it told, don't believe it? If the rapture happens, people always say, well, once the rapture happens, people are going to know. They're going to head right to the Bible and say, you know what, those wacky Christians were right. This thing did happen. And then suddenly turn themselves over to God. And how do you keep that from happening? Well, you keep that from happening by creating a second rapture and making it obvious now that these entities are the one that did it, and creating a third one and making it obvious that these entities did it, so that they still don't go back and say, you know what, the Christians were right, God raptured them out of the earth. The Christians had it wrong. It wasn't it wasn't God, it was actually these demons or these aliens, if you will. And I think that's how they will try to keep people from remembering the story of those who are now gone and